Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Jenn T. Grace.
How are you?
We meet again on a Saturday, no less, because we're just those kinds of dedicated entrepreneurs.
Yes, I feel like we are. I feel like we're messengers for information for others. So I feel like we made a priority to say, all right, let's have this conversation this morning because the information is relevant, it's timely, and I think it's going to be really helpful, which is why we've titled it Small Business Resourcefulness with our beloved guest, Mark David Gibson.
Welcome, Mark.
Hello. Good morning.
Esteemed author of
Greetings from Atlanta.
Hello, PYP, another great creation from the Publish Your Purpose Press folks.
Thank you. I appreciate the plug right out of the gate. So where shall we start this conversation? It is a Saturday morning that we're having this because there's just, I think, Jen, we comment on this almost all of these videos that we've been doing, that every single day something is shifting, something is changing. There's a new resource. There's a resource that's not working. Like, it's just kind of like a constant flow of things that are going on. But I want to just kind of start with what you're up to, because not only are you helpful on the small business side of things, but you are an LGBTQ entrepreneur, you are an author, you've had a book tour, you help speakers, so you've got all kinds of things going on. So why don't we get an update of how you're feeling in these current times?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you both for this and your leadership and just your intention and being so intentional to help, right? And to help out, try to calm some of the white noise in the storm. I just had a conversation this week, and I really wanted to do this on Saturday with you all because the week is a little bit tumultuous. There's ups and downs and stuff at work, and I'm not immune to that. Just because I work at the SBA and my husband works at the CDC, I'm not immune as an entrepreneur to the panic and the fear and all of the other emotions that we're all feeling, right, in these crazy times. So there's an opportunity to stay down there for a while if you want to. You certainly can choose that. Or you can follow YouTube powerful resources and stay above the fray and try to keep your head up. And plus I have clients too. And they're looking for leadership and guidance from me as their consultant, as their strategist. So I just have been trying to keep it real, keep it positive. I think that we're runners, so you try to get out and run as best you can, get some exercise. And now is not the time to stock up on high fructose syrupy drinks or desserts on the sofa.
Or binge an entire series in one sitting.
Right.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
maybe not in one sitting, but maybe over a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're obviously managing your stress by staying active physically, and I'm sure there's no shortage of things for you to be doing right now. So let's see, where shall we take this conversation?
Well, I think, there's two things that, Mark, first of all, your memoir is, a really amazing story, and much of it centers around like honoring ourselves, our truth, authenticity. So I wonder, like, how is that feeling for you? How does that apply, I guess? What are your predictions about that? Because I know I've been exploring a lot of that in my community calls I've been doing with D&I professionals, meaning those who lead diversity efforts in organizations, who are typically my community, my clients, my work. And we're all kind of struggling to serve the organization right now, make sure the organization is making the right choices and not giving room for bias that shows up in spades in tough times, in panic, when things are happening fast, when we don't have a playbook. It's actually like a recipe for bias and exclusion. But it's also an opportunity for inclusion and some really amazing, I think, visibility and transparency for us bringing our full selves to work because, hello, a little plug. So I wonder, like, what are you feeling in terms of the possibilities here? Like, trying to focus on the positive, like what actual doors are opening up for us to have more inclusive organizations, however we're defining that, company of two, community board, house of worship. What is really possible coming out of this?
And thank you for that. My book, In Served in Silence, The Struggle to Live Authentically, as a memoir, I was able to rip some Band-Aids off and get a memoir done in memoir fashion. But then I was also able to take it and craft it to a business perspective and a business point of view. And so, especially in your line of work and such a vital and important champion for the D&I space for leaders and for employees and for the community at large. And I think that if we look at how far we have come because of great leaders like yourself that have been able to help companies progress and move forward, this isn't the time to retreat.
Right.
This is the time to continue going forward. Mm-hmm. And these are the times to, in my opinion, take all that you have done to cultivate these D&I relationships within your organizations. And that is the strength and the bonds of your employees that you're cultivating. Because at the end of the day, CEOs, COOs, CFOs, the C-suite, you're not actually going to be able to solve all of the company's problems. So you're going to be relying on your problem solvers, and that is the amazing work that companies have been doing to recognize that when we allow our employees to bring their true authentic self to the day, they have more problem solving power. So right. I think that more than ever, it is time to reach out and lean on these particular champions, problem solvers.
Oh, we just got a little.
Don't mind me. I'm trying to manage comments and then carry on, Mark.
Carry on.
She's multitasking as usual. I'm surprised she's not publishing a book on the right hand side over here.
Jen, she's capable of magical things. But Mark, what you just said is so important and really supported by what I've seen and read about and researched, which is, and you want your diverse talent, and I mean diversity in so many ways, right?
Sure.
Veteran identity is a diverse lens, right? That helps with problem solving. And we need to, right now more than ever, we need those diverse voices around the table. And then we need those voices once we're at the table to be listened to. Mm-hmm. And that's important. That's an important distinction, right? It's the difference between diversity and inclusion. Diversity is being asked to the dance, and inclusion is being asked to dance. Both of those things have to be present in order to unleash the power of what you're talking about. And you're right, like now more than ever, you talk about needing out of the box thinking. How are we going to innovate through this and still maintain some kind of cohesion between people who need to get tasks done together? How is that trust fostered when we are in many ways kind of operating professionally, with our hands tied behind our back in some ways, right? Because we have kids crawling all over us. We're not comfortable with technology. We may not have digital access.
Low internet.
You
name it.
You name it. So emotional, intelligence, and empathy quotient has to go way up, I think, in order to, and leadership needs to be, I think, redefined, right, for this new world that I don't think we're going back to the old way. I mean, I just keep seeing things on Twitter about companies realizing, as they will, that people can be productive virtually. They don't need the big office spaces that they're paying so much for. The commutes are onerous for many of us, who imagine like living in LA and wasting 2 hours of your day. Like, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And so this is going to be really interesting. I'm kind of focusing on what's going to go up in terms of inclusiveness in this new environment. My theory, somebody said, who identifies as gender fluid on one of my calls this past week, said, I am being misgendered much less in this virtual world. And I was like, yes, yet another way that showing up in this new realm is enabling us to bring our full selves in a different way. Conversely, though, there's less of a barrier, I think, to protect some of us that have always felt very vulnerable traditionally. And so some people are experiencing that vulnerability every time they turn their video on. People see where they live. It's very difficult to hide the truths of who we are as well in this world. So we're being forced into this level of transparency that I think is perilous for some of us and very uncomfortable, but ultimately so important, because if we can rip the Band-Aid off of here's all of who I am, I can't hide it anymore. I don't want to hide it anymore. Like, deal with it and let's talk about it. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for education and then the trust and all the enablers that could get built through that reality, as uncomfortable as it is for a lot of us.
Absolutely. And I think that now, no pressure on you, Jennifer Brown, but it's on your shoulders to be guiding leadership in these companies. They might not be thinking about that. They might not be thinking about the vulnerabilities of their employees. And I think that when you have a leader that's running top cover and that's providing not only the safety net, but providing the accessibility to that leadership element, that they're going to be okay and we're going to get through this, then that just creates a greater synergy for the workforce to solve these problems. So it's incumbent upon you to make sure these leaders are listening.
I hope so, because the other thing that could happen is that, as I was sharing earlier, D&I people getting furloughed.
Yeah.
And I know about 8 people in my network so far that are no longer at their companies. And it does concern me that this will get sidelined as a priority, because it's not, yelling the loudest, in terms of just staying afloat. We go to this place of sort of that primal part of us when we're panicking. And I think businesses are doing the same. And in the best of times, we've had kind of a tenuous seat at the table. And we've spent a lot of energy trying to say, well, this is why this is important, and your workforce really needs it and wants it. And, it has everything to do with recruitment and retention and innovation and resonating with clients and customers. But, I'm just not sure. I think we need to rebrand ourselves in a way as well to say, look, we have what you need right now. Like, we actually have the secret sauce to address your pain points. But we need to be really good marketers right now. We need to be very on message. We need to be, as good marketing does, very centered around the pain points of our stakeholders, and be speaking that language so that we can make sure, we're viewed as as people with the solutions. So anyway, I hope we have a seat at the table to influence leaders. We'll see. Some companies are going to remain committed to this, that were committed. And then I think the companies who were sort of just getting started may not have gotten far enough to keep this embedded, right?
As a priority. Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And, I loved your show yesterday with Jack. And, Jack was also talking about the same thing about messaging during this time in COVID. And that's, I think that resonates to what you're talking about there too, is, these leaders and these companies, that you're right. The ones that have it, they get it, they're solid, they're going to continue to move forward. And those, it's two steps forward, 3 steps back kind of thing with the seat at the table. But it's conversations like these. It's conversations with you and your company. It's resources at Publish Your Purpose Press that help maintain it's easier to continue to go forward, to continue to keep moving forward.
Agreed.
What I want to chime in and kind of pivot our conversation to is similar. You're hovering around it right now, but thinking about, there's obviously those that are employed in workplace settings. There's those of us who are small business owners, entrepreneurial, doing the employing. But I think that what I would imagine that there's going to be a bigger need to know what your purpose is. And of course, I'm always biased to the phrase purpose. But to know what your purpose is, to know how to articulate that purpose in all of these settings, to either help you stand out in whatever business it is that you have, or in the corporate setting to also help you stand out, to maybe be the thing that helps you maybe maintain or keep your job or move positions. And I know before we hit record, we were talking about a wonderful mutual friend of ours, Erin Weed, and her process around kind of digging people and getting to the bottom of people's truth.
Big time.
Now is the opportune time to access a resource like that, because I think, and I'm a big believer of just really understanding who you are and, self-help, self-development, all that kind of stuff. But I think more people are going to need that now, well more than ever, because of just kind of how everything is changing on us. Would you agree with that?
We're going to give Erin's link she actually is running a Facebook Live tomorrow, Sunday, 2:00 Eastern, don't miss it. Get on her mailing list. But we're all fans of Erin, many, many years. But Jenn, I think you're so right. You and I've talked about this, that many people are going to be in career transition coming out of this, whether it's solopreneur to hopefully a corporate job, or a corporate job, losing the corporate job and becoming sort of maybe not by choice, that business owner. And then thinking about, what can I sell? And who would buy what I sell and what I know how to do? And it's a really great opportunity, I think, to slow down and really focus on, what have I always wanted to do? Maybe I've hesitated to bring that into the world. Maybe I haven't known how. Maybe I haven't had the support. And Jenn and I have been talking, spoiler alert, we're trying to come up with some kind of program where we can help share how we've built our businesses from our purpose, right? Really very, and all three of us have businesses that are so aligned with couldn't be more closely aligned, right? It just feels like perfectly aligned. And it doesn't even feel like work, because when you're working from that place, you have sort of endless, I think, energy to put towards what you've created. So there is potential to be a thriving business owner and a happy business owner, even if it is thrust upon you. Or perhaps you already own a business, but you're thinking of shifting, right? And that's also going to be a transition. We're all in. I mean, I know the three of us are literally like, what is this going to look like? And what am I going to sell? And I used to be a training company and a keynoter, and now it's virtual. My prices they may get squeezed because, you're not speaking for big audiences anymore, and maybe the perceived value is shifting. So it's anyone's guess, how we are all going to need to pivot to adjust to this. I mean, Mark, I wonder if you, from a business owner perspective, what are you thinking about if you morph into something that's going to be useful and hopefully lucrative enough to, pay your bills?
Yeah, keep the lights on.
Have you been thinking about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, this is why I love being a member of the PYP family, because having a foundation that was built on words like purpose, and being able to wake up and, okay, what is my purpose? Got it. Right. Okay. Next. And then you keep moving. Erin does such a great job, and not only helping you define what that purpose is, but then getting you to a place with the dig process and getting your North Star word that really operates your inner operating system. It's all of that will stand the test of time through these crises, these challenges, because it's in here. It's in our makeup. It is the purpose of our authenticity as an entrepreneur. And so I think that how did you get there? Well, you relied on that development of your power and your inner power and your purpose. So that's going to get you to the next step. And I think that is going to be, you have your feet on solid ground. And if you're not right now, those of you that are watching, it's okay. There's resources out there that are going to get you there. And that's why you have events like these, and you seek the assistance of. And plus, she's just really cool and a lot of fun to be with.
Totally. And she lives in the most beautiful place to visit, Boulder. So if you haven't been in Boulder in spring or any season really, but it's literally like the sound of music. The hills are alive.
Yeah.
It's quite magical.
There's so much there. I feel like this might be a good kind of place to pivot a bit, because I feel like we're also kind of talking about, there are some business owners that are doubling down on what they're doing. There are others who are burying their heads in the sand. And I would imagine that's probably similar with employees as well, right? So, and I feel like we're all of the ilk of doubling down and producing and getting more things done as much as we can. But I also know that resources are really tight for so many people. So, Mark, I would love to get your insights for you to kind of switch hats for a few minutes, if you will, because you have your LGBTQ entrepreneurial hat, you have your author hat, you have your speaker hat, but the big reveal for those that do not know you is that you also work for the Small Business Administration, which are essentially, heroes wearing capes right now for so many of us in the small business world. So can you just share a little bit or anything that you can with those that are watching that are, maybe in some place of, desperate need for the resources that the SBA has?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. In my house, I already told you that, the upstairs is SBA and downstairs is CDC, because my husband works at the CDC. Here we go. Here's some good news. Okay. So think about your business, and you are having a great year, and you are just performing, and it's kicking on all pistons. And you take that great year, and overnight, someone tells you to increase your business by 500%, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck with that.
Have fun.
That's what we've done in the SBA. To give perspective, last year, the economy, the world, 2019 was a banner year for entrepreneurs. And we are a testament, we are a temperature gauge to that by the number of loans that we service and the amount of backed loans that the SBA backs. So in perspective, we processed and approved 63,000 loans last year. It's a lot of loans, to the tune of about $28 billion. As of this morning, we have processed over 500,000 loan applications. And today, the money is flowing today to the tune of $130 billion.
It's raining.
So the economic injury disaster loan is flowing. The advance loan is flowing. The PPP, the payroll protection program, it is all flowing. So we had a garden hose, this little garden hose, and we're coming along and we're watering the lawn and we're doing a great job. The lawn looks great. And then we're told, because of a crisis called COVID, that no, you're going to shift and now you're going to plug into a fire hydrant and hope that you don't blow a gasket, hope that you don't blow up the hose, and hope that you're still able to service the entrepreneurs that you need to service. So I am so honored and I am so proud to be working for, I love my agency anyway, because our agency, the very core foundation of our agency is to help people's dreams come true. Well, who can't get behind that? I mean, that's just a great job to have on a daily basis. Talk about purpose, Jenn. And then to see how my teammates have really stepped up to the plate. And, Jenn Brown, in talking about how do we pivot and how do we shift and how do you remain relevant and important, these are the times that, yeah, the hair isn't looking good, but I got to get on that video and I've got to, process. And we all play a vital, vital role in the jobs that we do. Maybe not to this capacity. We don't have the treadmill running this fast usually. And so that's the good news. And the other news that I wanted to share, and I wanted to make sure, just as a public service announcement, okay, either as an entrepreneur, as an LGBT certified business, or an SBA employee, is these are not the times to get duped or to get scammed. It's hard enough out here, folks. Okay. So if you are doing any type of relief or any type of government backed programs, it will never be on a .com. So if you are doing full stop. So it will have to be SBA.gov, the Treasury.gov. There will be no .coms. Okay. The other resource, Jenn, that we were also talking about before we hit live is I really encourage you all, for those of you that are in the United States, that you go to SBA.gov and then drill down to your local SBA office and get on their mailing list. Go and register and just get on their mailing list. They're not going to spam you. It's a .gov. But this is really valuable just-in-time information. It is changing hourly. This morning, we've already have updates and changes from this morning, and it's all good news. I know it never comes fast enough when we are in a time of crisis. But I wanted to share that with us to let our community know that help is on the way. The money is flowing, and it started flowing. It's hitting the accounts now as we speak.
It is so exciting. And what's great is that we have a comment that came in saying that the PPP loan application was really easy. And I agree. I found it to be, like, I was able to do it really quickly. And I honestly expected to have to spend like a half a day figuring out, what information was needed and how to do it. But it was genuinely easy. And then I don't know what the other one was, the $10,000 one.
The advance, yeah.
That took like 2 seconds. It was so fast. I'm
Another thing I wanted to mention that, so those of you that are watching and you have been busy over the last month keeping your business afloat and you're trying to figure things out, you may be just coming out, scratching your eyes like it's a little fuzzy out here and it's a little foggy. It's okay. We've got you. Okay. Don't panic. You can still go to sba.gov. It would, like Jenn was just talking about, it's very easy to fill out the application. I will recommend, and if you didn't, it's okay, but I will recommend that you do a screenshot or write down the confirmation number that you get at the very end. You'll see that's a very big number. We're servicing not hundreds, not thousands, but millions during a time last year when we had a banner year of only 63,000 applications. But what we have done is in times of adversity, the public and the private partnerships of people stepping up and saying, hey, how can we help? How can we bring our infrastructure that has a secure component for people that take Social Security and banking information, keep it secure and assist the .gov, so we can open up that valve a little bit by a little bit by a little bit to push all of those applications. So to your point, Jenn, yes, it is easy. One other thing I wanted to add, that when you go and you get to SBA.gov and there's the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL loan. That is just that. It's a loan. It's a low interest loan. I think, Jenn, we can maybe share the FAQs, the talking points with the group. And that is also changing on a regular basis. But that loan now will automatically merge to the advance loan as well. So when it comes time for the approval process, someone is going to ask you, okay, in addition to the economic injury disaster loan, do you also need or want the advance? And I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of this right now, but there are defining qualities that make the eligibility and all of those types of things. But it is relatively easy. And I know that our phone lines and our emails and everything is jammed up, but don't pay attention to the white noise and all the crazy that's going on. Stay calm, just stay focused and just read everything thoroughly. And, like you said, Jenn, it took you maybe under 5 minutes, maybe?
It really was insanely fast. And I don't expect anything from the government to be quick. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And what I would also say is that leaning heavily on your business banker right now is so critical. I bank with Citizens Bank, which is like a regional, I think, Northeast type of bank. And they've been amazing. Like my person, Jill, has been on it. She responds immediately. Any questions I have, she has answers to. And I feel like having that relationship is so pivotal. And we had a great relationship before, and I know a lot of people don't have a direct contact at their bank. And I'm realizing how valuable that is now. So for those, I would encourage, because I can't imagine, I'm sure there's going to be another crisis at some point. It's just a matter of maybe how long that is. So if you don't have that relationship with a business banker now, now's the time to create it for whatever might come in the future.
Okay, so I'm sub-recording that. You're now going to work for the SBA, and we're going to put that out all over our networks because spot on, full stop, absolutely. You just need to, folks. You need to have a relationship with your community lender. Yes, you do need to pause, hit the brakes once a quarter, go out and have coffee, go into the branch office, because they have the resources, and they have more resources than you even know that they have to help you. So for example, I heard that this is another success story, but we have some community lenders out there that aren't SBA approved. That's a challenge. What we did is, once again, talking about the garden hose to the fire hydrant, we said it's one form. Those lending institutions are able to become approved SBA lenders with one form, and then they're able to service their clients. we need that to happen across a much wider field than just the SBA approved lenders that we had on the bench, but now we needed more. So now is the time. So now if you have a big bank and a big box, that's okay too, because you probably have a great relationship with them, but just realize that their valve gets shut down a little bit. That creates a little chaos. Oh my God, they're not taking any loans. No, what they really meant to say was they just shut the valve for a minute. They're taking a breather. They're processing everything. They'll open the valve back up. But I think it's going to be interesting, especially Jennifer Brown in the D&I space, for doing the autopsy and what did we do as communicators and what did we do as entrepreneurs. And all right, I'm adding that to my checklist of my my emergency bailout bag or book or whatever. I want to have my community lender on speed dial. I want to know that I can reach out to them, because it's a lot easier for Jen Grace to reach out to your local Citizens Bank person. And, so very well said. That's one of my talking points.
I love it. You don't wait till a crisis to put these things in place. I've always thought about this with the lines of credit, right? When I meet a business owner and we sort of get into that financial discussion and I say, so, do you have a line of credit? And they'll be like, oh no, or I don't want, or I have one, but I never use it. Use it, because lines of credit are meant to be used, and banks actually like to see a lot of activity in those, right? That actually is a metric they like, the frequency of activity.
Absolutely.
But also apply for it when times are good. And so, I guess times are not good right now, but I always knew that that in my business, I was so grateful to have that, because there are sort of these ebbs and flows of business ownership and cash flow that can be rather alarming when you have any kind of peril to meet, right now, right?
And I learned that for the first time. People they assume that I know all of these different things about entrepreneurism because I work at the SBA. I work in the communications aspect of SBA, but I actually learned, to your point, Jennifer, in the PYP Academy, when Jen, you were teaching about access to resources, and when I was getting ready to launch my book, I just went and started my relationship with my local bank, and they want to champion you. They love this. They want to get behind that spirit of entrepreneurism, and they understand that 9 out of 10 net new jobs start in that small business community, and that's the community bank. Those are 9 new checking accounts, savings account. And so when I launched my book at the Fox Theater, I had a line of credit that I just applied for 6-8 months prior to. We didn't have to use it that much. We did use a little bit because it's a little expensive to launch a book at the Fox Theater. But it was that time that we were able to, we weren't getting ready to print the tickets and maybe we should start a line of credit process. It takes a little while. Now, for those of you that don't have for those of you that you're on the flip side of this, and maybe you didn't need cash at that time, maybe you didn't need to have a relationship with a bank, it's okay. There are you are afforded a seat at the table wherever you are in this process or this journey. It's just we're trying to give you some heads up of maybe ahead of you a turn, or ahead of you a couple of turns.
I'm curious, along these lines. I feel like, number one, having you as a friend and being in the SBA, clearly that has its benefits, especially now. In the past, you've been able to say, go talk to this person, go do this thing. And you were kind enough to invite me to be the keynote speaker for an SBA event a couple of years ago, which was amazing. And I feel like, I just feel like government agencies in and of themselves don't always get a good reputation, but I feel like the people at the SBA, and small banks, big banks, most people really, if they're serving entrepreneurial communities, they want to see people succeed. I feel like that it seems so obvious that that's part of what they do, is they want to see you succeed. But I think a lot of times we just think of them as oh, this is the person that cashes the checks, or this is the person who sends me whatever application, when there's so much more than that. But what I want to just I'm curious of either of your perspectives. So I have noticed a ton of information coming out from the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, WeBank, the USBLN, the veteran organizations, all of the different organizations that, NMSDC, like all of the big organizations that certify minority business owners, whatever that minority status might look like, they have all really, in my opinion, I'm curious what your thoughts are, but I feel like they have really stepped up to be so communicative, to say, listen up, folks, this is the new thing that you need to be paying attention to. And I feel like for me, it's helped me kind of drown out the noise, because as a woman-owned certified business and an LGBT-owned certified business, I know that I can trust those two bodies to guide me in the right direction. And I'm wondering, and I'm kind of curious, like, how are others who are not certified or part of this community, whether it's a woman-owned business community, disability-owned community, LGBT-owned, like where, like, are they getting the same access, or are we all really that, I don't want to use the word privileged, but I feel like in so many ways, like, we have access to amazing people. And I'm curious, because obviously I can't not be a minority. It is what it is. So I don't know what it's like on the other side, but I'm kind of curious if either of you have kind of noticed that too, that you're not getting the communication from other sources. It's really coming from these communities that we're part of as minority business owners. Any thoughts?
The one thing I've noticed, and I agree with you, kudos. I mean, they are stepping up. They're stepping out. They are paving the way. But that's with this whole notion of certification to begin with. All three of us know the power of certification, and maybe we're not in line for government contracts, or maybe we're not in line for what other aspects that certification can bring. But this right here is what is in line. We are networking. We are powerful networkers that get together, and elbow to elbow, we're gonna shoulder through these hard times. Well, the certifying bodies, they have been for years talking about how they have increased entrance to a seat at the table. It's up to you to accept the invitation.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. You get out of it what you put into it, as phrased another way. That it's it is. But I agree with you. It's powerful, Jen. I mean, I'm in some other CEO groups full of white straight men. So not those who can take advantage of these kinds of communities. I mean, I find the privilege and the access for those folks is what you would expect it to be, which is the whole point of why, if we're not in those worlds, right, which historically we're not, we're in these supplier diversity communities where we can really be seen and support each other, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting to see where people are sort of accessing, who has access to what. And you've got to look out for yourself as a diverse owned company. It just underscores that we are a bit more vulnerable traditionally, or a lot more vulnerable. We're less likely to start businesses. We are less likely to have access to capital. We are, as I always say, under mentored, and sort of outside of the, hey, you might want to look into this, or the advice, or the call my friend, or all of it. So you have to, and this is preaching to the choir, of course, to this audience, but maybe not. I mean, you don't have to have any revenue, by the way, to get certified with with these entities too. I think that's a common barrier, or perceived barrier, but you don't have to. And also, I mean, I don't know what their documentation requirements are and whether they've been changing, and it's sort of a low document, requirement. I hope it is. But, today's solopreneur is tomorrow's job creator, like we've been talking about. So I love what you said, Jen, that we make the assumption that nobody wants to talk to us and support us. But I think that's really true. The banks are super enthusiastic, but it's hard. I know for some people listening to this, maybe you have tried to get a line of credit or build a relationship and you haven't been able to. And I was there for a long time. I remember those days, and somehow we finally got big enough as a company that our relationship was with Chase, but they wouldn't take a look at us for years. Like, they didn't want anything to do with a company that had nothing, for example, to collateralize. Like, I'm all a people business, right? There's nothing, there's just air, according to them anyway, and their analysis. So I knew that I would be a great investment for them, but it was difficult to get through their metrics, right? So I ended up doing banking with BB&T, actually, which is the Southeast Bank, regional bank. who would talk to me, there was a number I could call and I could get a human on the other end of the line. But honestly, it was through a connection that I actually got them to even look at us. So, it's hard. I just want to acknowledge it's hard in the best of times. And I hope one of the ways we look at equity coming out of this, of course, is that we make all of these things more equitable, that we increase access, that this isn't true going forward, on so many levels. We've been shown a lot of things through this crisis that I think we have to not forget, that we can't unsee, and we have to address it. Like, Dr. Fauci and Cuomo and everybody is now starting to talk about the racial disparities, about who is dying from COVID-19 disproportionately Black and brown communities.
Yeah.
And people are acting as if this is a surprise and a newsflash. And sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's like, it's not. Some of us have been telling the truth for a long time, but it has not been heard. So, let's make access to capital something that we democratize in a much more meaningful way coming out of this, based on what we've learned about how difficult it is for people. I mean, we've learned how close to the edge most people live from a day-to-day basis. And I think we've just learned so many things that we really need to act on coming out of this. So I deeply hope that we don't go back to no quote unquote normal. I really hope we keep all of this in mind so that we can build a better world for all of us.
I think so. And, Jenn, Grace, what you were talking about, the certification. And so maybe we can learn from this, Jennifer Brown, about not getting so close to the edge, because certification is power. It's power in knowledge. It's power in networking. It's power in resources. Another thing that a resource that I can offer, and I strongly recommend it, Jenn, Grace, you met it. You met this organization when you were at the SBA headquarters. Eugene Cornelius did a great job at paving the way for the federal agencies to consider ways to be more inclusive, and we're now seeing the rewards of that. He's no longer with the SBA, but he would be very proud to see that the fabric of our organization, it is brought together, but with the threads of that certification and those resources. So with that, I also want to recommend on SBA.gov that we also have a great team of leaders in the Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, and SCORE. SCORE is our senior counselors of retired individuals, and they help. So you can bring all of this with your certification and your knowledge together. The Small Business Development Center, Jennifer Brown, they would take that bright idea that maybe Chase wouldn't be that interested in, because to them it's just a bright idea, but they could really start to be that private counselor, that private board of that private member of your board of executives that will help you. And then those are times that would create the force multiplication of those certifications and those resources.
That's great advice.
Yeah. I feel like if anything, our takeaway should be to leverage the resources that we have accessible to us and be cultivating those relationships before we need them. I think that's, just a big takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mark, as we kind of are concluding here, are there any, final parting thoughts, anything that we didn't cover that you think would be valuable for those watching? I feel like we've had a good number of people watching this whole time and some good comments coming in. So, is there any final parting words of wisdom?
Yes. Okay. We already covered the .com and the .gov. That's real important, folks. Please don't get scammed out there. And if you have a question, reach out, do a Sandy check, have your buddy or your business partner take a review. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Jenn, Grace, is thank you for, here we are in the middle of a crisis, and overnight you flip a switch, you create a program, you launch it, and we have authors now that are able to plug in and daily tips on getting their words out and writing their books. And the reason why I mentioned that is because maybe now is the time that if we're not getting out as much, we have some time. You can either binge watch Ozark, or you could create your methodology and create an online course program, or you can consider how are you going to service your customers and your clients as we pull out of this. We will pull out of this. But when we do, hopefully you've journaled and you've taken some notes along the way of, community bank relationship. Yeah, I want to do that when the dust settles. I want to get certified. I want to plug into these networks. And then it's not just like you're plugging into a fire hydrant with your garden hose. Now you are just moving along and you're simply just taking the ebbs and the flows of either the crisis of the day, or because as entrepreneurs, we don't take no. We hear no, but it doesn't compute. We reevaluate, we repackage it, we resend it back out into the world, into the universe. So we don't take no. And these hard times, it's difficult, of course, and you can bury your head. Yes, it's very easy to bury your head. But when you can plug into these powerful networks of people that hold you up, lift you up, you're going to be there to hold somebody and lift somebody up. So I guess that would be my parting thoughts. I am in the process of building my own, taking my own advice, and I am building an online coaching program. And if people need any assistance or if you'd like some help, you can hit me up at markdavidgibson.com/time. That you can jump on my calendar and we can do a time trade there, or you can simply email me.
Beautiful. And Jenn, do you want to chime in about your community calls?
Yeah, thanks, Jenn. Thank you. For anyone that's listening to this and is in the D&I world, either employee resource group leader or LGBTQ plus or ally voice in your organization, that's really where I live. And we have community calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'll post, Jenn, I think in the show notes, the link for registration is there. Tuesdays, Thursdays, noon Eastern. Come on and find out, hear what everybody is doing about, for example, the fact that Pride this year is going to look completely different, and hear directly from what other companies are doing vis-a-vis that, and also all their D&I programming, whether that's unconscious bias training, whether, there's one company that came on and shared about how they've repurposed their parenting and caregiving and generations network to build a 30-minute module for parenting in the time in a work from home environment, and like best practices for, wrangling with like school and curriculum. And I mean, just really innovative ways. I think that we are maintaining our seat at the table and we're redirecting our energies. That's the kind of stuff we're generating. So anyone who needs to know that kind of information, you should come and just listen in, lurk on the chat, say a few words. I always have an amazing co-host. I tend to invite people in my network, and also some of my consultants for my team. So you can get to meet some of those folks that normally have their heads down, kind of doing this very amazing, rewarding, and difficult work. Lovely executive teams that we sometimes don't get it, but really want to. So come and meet some of my team members that represent JBC and from whom I've learned so much as well. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about that, Jen Grace. And it's just so lovely to be in community with other LGBTQ plus business owners, professionals, advocates, champions, like both of you. So awesome.
Yeah. I think we have a lot to look forward to for Vegas, right?
Yes. Vegas is going to happen.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
I don't want to miss it. It'll be my 12th year in a row. I can't pandemic be the reason I can't go.
Oh,
yeah, we need that.
Yeah, definitely. Fun. Remember, that was my first time I met you, Jennifer Brown, is you and I shared an Uber on our way to the attic to go have a book signing with Jenn T. Grace.
With Jenn T. Grace. Yeah. Oh, you don't know about NGLCC. Think about getting certified. Really look into it. Don't let the paperwork scare you.
It's not that bad. They have changed the process so dramatically over the years. Like when I got certified back in like 2009, it was very different than what it is now. So do not let that be a barrier. And there's plenty of companies and services out there that can help you with that process. So the pros far outweigh the paperwork cons.
Oh yeah, and the value add, I always want the value add, right? I want a coupon, I want to get the best deal. Well, think about this. You're going to your local chamber anyway because you're a part of a network in your local chamber. When you belong to your chamber, certification is free. So that's just like just plugging your business into steroids when you get into the powerful networks that places like the NGLCC that are on the front lines every day, that are just working hard for you as an LGBTQ entrepreneur.
And we could swap out LGBTQ and put in many other different minority groups.
Veterans, women, Asian Pacific
Community, I want to point out, is we're all intersectional too. So there's tremendous diversity within the diversity within this group of entrepreneurs. So it is a really welcoming space and really inclusive space.
When we pull out of this thing, my goodness, the NGLCC is a pretty big party to begin with, but whoo, we are going to raise the roof.
Yes, we will.
We have to, yeah.
So, Jen, what day are you on with the tip?
I've been doing daily tips. So if people are not sick of my face yet, I have 5 more days of tips to go. And on Fridays at 1 p.m., I'm doing office hours. So people who have writing, publishing, editing, marketing, anything related to book type questions, I am live and available on Fridays at 1, which has been so much fun, just helping people move forward. And then I will be starting a marketing series in a couple of weeks. That will be daily tips around marketing of your books. So that'll be helpful for both of you because you already have books. And then, so both for those that are thinking about a book that they need to be marketing now, and then those who have had a book for however long. So I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So my face, you might be tired of it after, 25 days in a row, but it's still coming. So
that was actually my favorite section in the PYP Academy, was the marketing, marketing aspect. Because that's the fun stuff, right? That's when you get to, do the back matter and the spine and the blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what you have a publisher for. Let them take care of that. I want to get into the sexy, fun stuff like the marketing. So that's going to be great. I can't wait for that.
I feel like the 3 of us are biased to marketing. We love marketing. Marketing related. And many people are like cowering in fear over the thought of having to market a book. So we might be outliers, but hopefully that provides inspiration for someone who's, maybe on the fence of, should I tell someone I'm writing it? Because there's all that fear around it. It's like, throw it away, get out there, tell people you're doing it, regardless of what you're doing, writing a book, doing, running a marathon, training for something, starting a new business, tell people, right? Because then you get support, which is what it's all about.
And thank you again for the LGBTQ plus professionals Facebook group. I mean, I think that's just been a wonderful resource for hundreds of entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll make sure we put a link to that below this video too. So if you aren't in that group yet, we have, I think, close to 600 people. So please join. And there are allies in there too. So you are welcome. So yeah, this has been good. This is a great way to have a Saturday morning.
It reckons back to almost 3 years ago, Jenn T. Grace. Jen and I first met on a Saturday morning when I was interested in learning more about publishing my book.
Mm-hmm. And then
look at you now.
Nothing but magic has happened since.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Hugs.
Have a good